I got these animals on their mixed ration, so I got some feed squared away. And so the weather, the winter was very mild and it was very wet. And so wheat in my area is very cheap right now. You can well, I was taking a look around at the markets, and I can buy a borderline dairy quality wheat hay for about under $200 a ton delivered. And so there's a lot of wheat. The winter was very mild and it was very wet. The spring was warm and it was very wet, and so the wheat crop in my area is doing extremely well. And I can purchase a borderline dairy quality wheat hay for just under $200 a ton. I can actually buy square bales, big square bales, for about $200 a ton right now delivered. And so I was taking a look around at the markets, and I was like, I was running my numbers. And so, I've already told you how I come up with my numbers, right? If I feed my animals roughly a 65% TDN diet, that is between 12 and 14%, and I let them eat as much as they want, they will eat about 3.25% of their body weight a day in dry matter. And if they eat that diet and they eat as much as they want, they will put on about 3 pounds in a day, right? And so I take those numbers, I say, okay, my animals are eating about 700 pounds of feed a day. And then I overlap that information with the feed that I can buy. And then I can figure out how much, how much is it going to cost me? My animals are roughly at a, if I use my body weight estimate formula, then I figure out, if I have 40 animals out here and they're roughly eating 700 pounds of a creep feed that is roughly 65% energy and 14% protein. If I feed that to my animals and 40 animals are eating roughly 700 pounds of it, then the average weight of my herd is about 500 pounds. And you can take a look at my herd, 500 pounds, I would say that's about correct. 500 pounds is about right. I got some animals that are significantly larger. I got some animals that are a little bit smaller. And then I got a lot of animals that are just right at about 500 pounds. Like that animal right over there, I would say that one right here is about 500 pounds. These two right here, probably about 500 pounds. It's probably what about a 500 pound animal looks like right there. These two right there. And you can see another one over that way. And so, this one right here, probably about 400 right there. And so, about 375. And so, when I take a look at my herd, I would say about 500 pounds on the average weight is correct across the entirety of my herd. And if, if I feed them 700 pounds, and it costs me, I ordered some feed. And so I ordered some feed. I got some feed coming in on Monday. And it's 14% protein and it is a 62.9% energy. And so I was like, that's almost perfect, because if it's 14% protein and 62.9% energy, I can feed them a little bit of corn and it will bump the energy up a little bit and it will drop the protein a little bit. And so it will put me closer to that 12%, about maybe 13.5%. And then it'll put me at about 64, 65 energy. And so, I found a load of hay. And I bought it for a $130 a ton delivered. And so I bought it for $130 a ton delivered, and it is round bales and it is a soybean hay. And this soybean hay, I've already told you, soybean hay, the stalks of the soybean are very hard, and so the animals won't eat it. And the big problem with soybeans is that if you leave them out in the rain when the animals are eating it, if the water gets into the bales, they will mold very quickly. And so a soybean, you got to be careful with it. You got to feed it when it's dry outside. And then, you got to anticipate that the animals are going to throw more of it on the ground. There's going to be more waste. There's going to be more waste than your average hay. And so when I run the numbers, I was like, $130 a ton delivered. Even if I add, 30% to that, that's still about $160 a ton, about $170 a ton. And I was like, $170 a ton. Okay, so here's the thing. I've always said I don't really care about the price of the feed, as I don't want to be in a situation where I'm paying $500 a ton for feed, right? I don't want to be paying $450 a ton for feed. But, like the average cost of my feed right now is about 200 and maybe about 200 and a quarter, about well, actually this peanut hay that I bought, I bought a load of it, and I got that for about 140, 120, 140 or something like that a ton delivered. And so, you know, I'm feeding my animals 3 parts protein hay, and I'm feeding them 1 part corn, and then I'm giving them a free choice roughage material, and then I'm putting them out on the grass, you know, for an hour a day. And so, roughly, I pay about, I pay about 175, you know, but if I include the grass, that they are eating off the ground, I pay maybe about 150 a ton. I pay about 150 a ton right now, and so, you know, but here's the thing, it's like if I put them on the grass and I put them on the 130, I mean, I'm going to be paying about 150 a ton anyway. Under any circumstance, I'm going to pay about 150 a ton. And, you know, my animals, you know, they need to eat about, okay, but I messed up these numbers yesterday. I realized that I messed up these numbers yesterday. But I always tell myself don't do math on camera because my numbers don't come out correct. You know, if I got 40 animals putting on 3 pounds a day, and I make about $2 a pound on the animal, that's $240 a day. You know, I make about $240 a day. You know, for the entirety of okay, but here, you know, I've already said, you know, the thing is about you know, running this business in particular, is that, you know, I don't want to liquidate my assets early. The only reason, I've already told you, the only reasons that I ever liquidate my assets are number one, you know, I do not have the capacity. I need the money. That's number one. Like, let's say I have bills to pay. And I need a set amount of money. Well, you know, I will liquidate my largest animals, because my largest animals have appreciated to a value that is more than what I put into them. So let's say my largest animal here right now. Let's say I put $1,200 into him, right? Some ridiculous amount of money. I put a drastic amount of money into my animal. I put $1,200 into my animal. And let's say when I take him to the sale barn and I sell him, I make $1,800. Well, that $600 margin is the money that I get to keep. You know, I put $1,200 into him. I got $1,800 for him. And then I get to keep the $600, and I need the money. And so the rest of the animals, I will hold on to them. Because there is not any reason for me to go all cash. I've already said this 50 times. Even if I liquidated everything that I have, and I would just said, you know what, I'm just not going to do anything anymore. I'm just going to liquidate everything, and I'm just going to sit on my whatever 700 grand, right? Some 700 grand. You know, what am I going to do with 700 grand, right? What am I going to do? Go walking off into the sunset, right? I mean, it's not a good idea. Right, 500 grand, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to go walking off into the sunset? It's not a good idea, right? I mean, it's not a good idea. And so, you know, the only times I ever liquidate my assets, is, number one, I need the cash, and number two, I do not have the capacity to appreciate the value of the animal profitably anymore. Those are the only two circumstances. Other than that, I will hold on to my assets, because my cattle are going up in value every single day, right? I have 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals. They're being put on a 65% TDN diet that is roughly 12 to 14% protein. And when I take a look at my animals, they're at a body conditioning, a majority of them are at a body conditioning score of 6 or higher. And so these are valuable cattle, right? I mean, they may not be the highest, you know, but okay, here's the thing about cattle, right? I mean, I've already said this too, but you know, these animals, when these animals that you're looking at right now, when you go to the grocery store and you just buy regular old beef, if you just go to the meat portion of the grocery store, right? If you just go to the meat portion of the grocery store and you just buy a T-bone steak and you pay $15 a pound for it, that is what these animals are. At the end of the day, that is what these animals are. These animals are just beef. At the end of the day, these animals are beef. They've all been castrated. I mean, the girls, they may go off to be mama cows, but all of the boys have been castrated. You know, they are essentially, as of right now, you know, forever, you know, they are meat. Unless they turn into somebody's pet. You know, if somebody buys an animal and turns the animal into their pet, or, you know, or if they go to some rescue shelter. But other than that, these animals are meat. Right? They don't have testicles anymore. I mean, they've all been castrated. And so, you know, the girls are the girls go off to be mama cows. But chances are the girls are going to go turn off to be meat too. And so when you go to the grocery store and you buy beef, this is what your beef looks like. You know, this is what your beef looks like. When you go to the grocery store and you buy a steak for $15, a T-bone steak for $15, this is what you're buying. And so, you know, but those are the only 2 times I ever liquidate my assets. Number one, I need the money. And number two, I do not have the capacity to appreciate the value of the animal profitably anymore. And right now in my local area, it's been very wet, and the weather was the winter was very mild. And so people are selling some dairy quality hay for very cheap. Like, you can go and buy a borderline dairy quality wheat hay, like a 18% protein, for like $200 a ton delivered, less than $200 a ton. And so, you know, I got a load of hay coming in on Monday, and if my animals do good on it, I'm just gonna buy as much of it as I can. Because here's the thing about me right now, I am making a lot of money. You know, I took a look at everything that I'm doing right now, and I am making a significant amount of money. Hey, I don't know how much money. I've always said I don't know. You know, I'm not an employee, right? I don't know exactly how much am I getting paid per hour. I don't know. But when my business is doing good, I know, right? Like, I know, you know, because I know my numbers like the back of my hand. This entire month, so far, this entire month, I spent $150. That's it. I haven't put any fertilizer on my grass yet because the weather was saying it's going to be a 15-20% chance of rain, and then it ended up dumping like 3 inches of rain. So I didn't know it was going to rain. I didn't think it was going to rain, but it dumped a whole bunch of rain. And so for the last you know, the last month, I've put $150 into my business. That's it. You know, I bought 15 bags of creep feed. I put $150 into my business, and that's it. Legitimately, that is all the money that I put into my business. And so, and I got 40 animals out here that are extremely fat. You know, my animals are putting on weight at an incredible pace. And I only put $150 into my business over the last 30 days. And so, you know, like, when my business is going good, I know. I'm making a ballistic amount of money right now. I don't know exactly how much money am I making, but I'm making a lot of money. And so I figured, you know, I was talking about this earlier, but if I put a half a ton of fertilizer, I mean, I'll probably just get, you know, as of this point, I'll just put the whole tonnage of fertilizer on my field. You know, it's I got about 5 days of it being dry, and then it's gonna start raining again next week. And so, you know, I'm gonna put the whole tonnage of fertilizer on my field. You know, and the tonnage of fertilizer cost me like $4.95 a ton. You know, it cost me $495 a ton for the essentially $500. And so, you know. But by next month, you know, I probably will. Okay, by July, I've already said this like 20 times too, but almost every single year, July and August are the hottest times of the year. Every single year, forever into infinity. In Central Texas, July and August are almost always going to be the hottest times of the year. And the moment it starts to get hot, people will start cutting their hay. With the moment it starts getting hot and dry, people will start cutting their hay. And the hay market will get flooded with inventory. Right now, the hay market is already flooded with inventory because we had a warm winter. There is a massive quantity of very high quality wheat hay that people are selling for very cheap. Very cheap. I mean, like you know, like $175 a ton delivered. And it's like dairy quality hay. I could legitimately just feed the animals the hay, and they will be able to eat, and they will get all of their nutritional requirements. That good of a quality hay. And so, you know, like I can get on the internet right now, and I can, you know, I've already got a lot of hay on the way to me. I bought some hay, and it's gonna be here on Monday. And so my big plan right now is that the feeder cattle market is still hovering around 250, 260. You know, I've already said that my whole belief system with the feeder cattle market is that the feeder cattle market is going to fall to $2. I genuinely believe that the feeder cattle market is going to fall to $2 at some point. At some point, the feeder cattle market will fall to $2. That is my belief system. And so right now, the feeder cattle market is still hovering around 250, 260. And it's been hovering 250, 260 essentially since like February of this year. It's been hovering at that range for about 3 or 4 months now, about 4 or 5 months now. And it took a dip one time, and then it went back up. And so, you know, I personally believe that the feeder cattle market is going to $2. And you know, but you know, right now hay is very cheap in my area. Hay is very cheap. I can get a very good quality hay for a very low price. And so I'm going to start buying hay. I'm just going to buy as much hay as I can, and I'm going to stock up on hay, and then I'm going to get stocked up on it, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with it afterwards. So, you know, because here's the thing, it's like at $140 a ton. I ran the numbers inside at $140 a ton. You know, at $140 a ton, delivered, even if my animals throw $130 a ton, even if my animals discard 30 of it, you know, I got a soybean hay, and so it's very woody, and so the animals are going to discard more of it, etc., etc. And it's a round bale, so they're going to throw a lot of it on the ground. And so if I just anticipate that they throw 30% of it on the ground, let's just say I pay $200 a ton to make my life easy, or $175 to $200 a ton. At $200 a ton, if my animals eat 700 pounds of it, you know, I got 40 animals. If they eat 700 pounds of it, they're gonna put on about 120 pounds. And at 120 pounds, $2 a pound is $240. And 700 pounds of that hay is gonna cost me about $70, right? And so essentially I'm making, you know, another way to look at it is that if I feed these animals, but by the time my animals go from 500 to 800, if I raise the average weight of my animals from 500 to 800, they're going to eat about twice as much. You know, they're going to eat roughly twice as much. And so, you know, I have to anticipate that as well, right? The average weight of my herd is 500 pounds right now, but if I continue to feed them the way that I do, their weight is going to go up. And when their weight goes up from 500 to 800, they're roughly going to eat about twice as much. And so when I run the numbers, essentially every time that I feed my animals a bale of hay, I will be making like an extra $35. And so if my animals eat 3 bales of hay a week, I will be making an extra $100 a week. You know, I will genuinely just be making an extra $100 a week. I don't, you know, I legitimately give my animals as much as they want to eat. They can eat as much as they want. And I just make an extra $100 a week. That is what is going on with me right now. You know, why am I buying this hay? Why am I going to stock up on a lot of hay? I'm going to buy a lot of hay because the hay market has tanked. The hay market, you know, plummeted because the weather has been good. And so, you know, the hay market is very low, and I'm gonna buy a boatload of hay. And if I need to, I can just bring in more animals. Like if I'm in a situation where I'm like, my animals are not eating the hay fast enough, or I believe that the average weight of my animals is too high. If I believe that the average weight of my animals is at 700 pounds, right? If I believe that the average weight of my animals is 700 pounds, and I want to drop the average weight, I will bring in smaller cattle. I will just go to the sell barn and buy smaller cattle. And if I bring in smaller cattle, the average weight of my herd will fall. So it will increase my feed use efficiency. And so under, you know, whatever is happening, as long as I know what is happening and I keep an eye on it and I figure things out, I can make it work, right? And I've always said, you know, the number 2 condition for me selling cattle is if I cannot increase the value of the animal, if I cannot appreciate the value of the asset profitably anymore, I will sell the animal. But if I am in a situation where I do not believe that I can appreciate the value of the animal, there are other ways to go about it. You know, I can bring in smaller animals. If I bring in smaller animals, the average weight of my herd will fall. And if the average weight of my herd falls, the amount that I need to feed, you know, essentially the average amount of feed that I need to feed will decrease. And so that could also increase the profitability of my business. Now, there are a lot of ways to solve these problems. A lot of ways, as long as they are objectively correct. I've already said, the last thing you want to be is a tard. You don't want to be in a situation where you go, oh my God, I fell out of heaven to 7. My life is a mystical, magical journey. I'm not going to do anything and everything is going to work out for me in a mystical, magical fashion. If you think like that, you are a tard. You do not want to think like that. If you start thinking like that, you will be stuck like that forever. Objectively correct information. My animals are roughly eating 700 pounds of feed a day across 40 animals within 93% accuracy, right? And if I feed them 700 pounds of feed a day, and I anticipate that my feed moisture is somewhere around 10 pounds, or excuse me, somewhere around 10%, but realistically creep feed is going to be around 5%. You know, if I feed them 3.5% of their body weight a day, the average weight of my animal is roughly 500 pounds, right? And then just write the information down. Just remember the information. That is all you have to do. I need to feed my animal 700 pounds of feed a day of a 65% energy, 12 to 14% protein diet. That is it. do not start walking around in la la land. Oh my God, you know, whatever nonsense that it is that you are coming up with, do not do it. Think objectively correct. If you turn into a tard, you are stuck like that forever, right? Think objectively. My animals are eating about 700 pounds a day. I have 40 animals, and across the entirety of my herd, they are eating about 700 pounds of creep feed a day. 65% energy, 14% protein, rough estimates. And if I run these numbers and I anticipate that each animal is eating roughly 3.5%, will eat roughly 3.5% of their body weight over a 24-hour period. When I run these numbers across my herd, the average weight of my herd is about 500 pounds. If I feed them this diet, they will put on roughly 75 to 90 pounds a month, right? If they put on 75 to 90 pounds a month, here in about 4 months, the average weight of my herd will be about 800 pounds. The feeder cattle market is sitting at about 250, 260. I have Texas type cattle. My animals are probably going to be valued at a little bit of a discount, 10%. Right? I mean, think objectively correct information. You know, if you just come up with some nonsensical thing and it's like nobody knows how you came up with that answer, and it turns out nobody knows how you came up with the answer because your answer is wrong, you don't want to be in that situation, right? Think in an objectively correct fashion. I have Texas cattle. They're 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals. A majority of my animals are a 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animal. When I run this formula across from my herd, I find out that the average weight of my animals is about 500 pounds. My animals, if I put them on a 65% energy, 12 to 14% protein diet, if I put them on this diet, they're going to put on roughly 2.5 to 3 pounds a day. They're going to roughly put on 75 to 90 pounds a month, right? By the time, from when they are about 350 to 800 pounds, they're going to put on about 75 to 90 pounds a month. So when I run my formula and I anticipate that the average weight of my animal is about 500 pounds, here in about 3 or 4 months, the average weight of my animals will be 800 pounds. If the average weight of my animals is 800 pounds and I have 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame animals, and the feeder cattle market is sitting at 250, 260, and I'm running Texas cattle, I anticipate that the average, that I take a 10% deduction for a number 1 type animal, my animals will be selling for about 235. But I'm going to lowball myself because I also have heifers. All right, heifers sell for less. And so I'm going to lowball myself and say I'm just going to make $2 a pound. I'm going to lowball the crap out of myself. I'm going to say I make $2 a pound across the entirety of my herd. I make $1,600 an animal. If I make $1,600 an animal and I have 40 animals, then roughly I make like 65 grand, right? And I owe about 52,000 on the animals, right? I owe 52,000 on the animals. If I take a conservative estimate on my animals, I make 65. Realistically, I'll make closer to 70. Right? And so it's like, in this situation that I'm in, and I say, okay, over the next 4 months, I am budgeting $1,000 a month. I'm budgeting $1,000 a month over the next 4 months, and it's going to take 4 months to get my animals to 800. If that's the case, I'm at 52,000. I'm going to 56,000 in debt. If I go 56,000 in debt and I make 70 grand, if I go into debt 56,000 and I come out 66,000, then I've made 10 grand. And I've made 10 grand after I lost 20 grand. I was negative 20 grand and then I went positive 10 grand. I mean, you got to consider the entirety of the situation for what it is, right? And also, here's the thing. My big plan right now is that because I have access to very, very cost-effective feed, I am going to bring in more animals. Why? Because if I feed 1 bale of hay, I make like $35 an animal. So if I can feed 2 bales of hay a week, or excuse me, if I can go from feeding my animals, let's say I can go from feeding 1 bale a day across my entire herd to feeding 2 bales a day across my entire herd, I will actually make money by just feeding the hay. And so right now, my big plan is to increase my margins. I'm not going to increase my margins. I'm going to increase my gross. I'm going to increase my gross and my net profit. I see an opportunity to make money, and I'm going to take it. How am I going to do it? I'm going to buy cost-effective hay. I'm going to buy a borderline dairy quality hay, and I'm going to feed it to my animals. And when I run the numbers for my animals, and I run the numbers across the entirety of my herd, I will make about $35 per bale. If I feed a bale of hay, I will make about $35 on the bale. And so if I can go from feeding 1 bale a day to feeding 2 bales a day, I can make myself an extra $700 a day, or excuse me, an extra $70 a day by just feeding hay. And so that is my big reason for why, why am I going to buy a whole bunch of hay right now? Why am I going to buy a whole bunch of hay? I'm going to buy a whole bunch of hay because when I run the numbers, I can legitimately just feed the hay to my animals and I will make money on it. That is why. And so, I was talking about my deal yesterday, about my real estate deal. And I thought it was a conventional loan, but it's not a conventional loan. It's a seller finance deal. But okay, here's the thing. It's like either way, 350 grand is such a pathetic amount of money. I've already said this 50 times. But we're not talking about $350,000 worth of cash. We are talking about $350,000 worth of real estate. $350,000 worth of real estate is such a pathetic amount of money. Like if you showed up to me right now and you told me that you could not buy a $350,000 home, I will leave you to die. I will think you are a tard. How can you not afford a $350,000 home? That's less than $2 grand a month. I don't get it. And I don't want to get it. I will legitimately leave you to die. If you walk up to me and you go, I can't afford a $350,000 home, I will genuinely just leave you to die. I will. There is no saving you. I'm not even going to try and argue with you. Whatever. It's game over for you. The chances of you recovering from that are like 0%. I don't know how you got into that situation, but I don't want to know. How can you not afford a $350,000 home? What are you doing? 350 grand is like $2,000 a month for real estate. Not even 2 grand. With the interest rates where they are right now, maybe 2 grand. It's like, I don't know what you're doing, but that is ridiculous. I will leave you to die. I don't want to know what you're going through. Right? And because here's the thing, I've already said this like 50 times before, because that's the thing about me. It's like, $350,000 worth of real estate is such a pathetic amount of money. I don't understand. Okay, so here's like when you take a look at my animals and you say, and I tell you I'm about to make 15 grand, right? I'm probably going to make 15 grand over the next 4 months. And I'm running I'm kind of lollygagging right now. I should be bringing in more animals, but I didn't bring in any more animals because the entire point of my business as of right now, the big idea for my business was that I was going to float the debt service for my new property by leveraging my cash flow from this business, right? I was going to take the 3-4 grand a month that I'm making here right now. I was going to take the $3,000 or $4,000 a month that I was making here right now, and I was going to leverage it for about $500,000, right? I was going to leverage it for about somewhere around $500,000, and then I was just going to pay for the debt service by using my cash flow here, right? That was my big idea. I wasn't looking to really push up my profits. But okay, so $350,000 is such a pathetic amount of money. It is such a ridiculously small amount of money. Right? It is a moronic sum of money. If you came up to me and you said that you do not have 350 grand to buy a piece of real estate, I would think you are a tard. I don't know what you are doing, but maybe you should keep that poorness to yourself. Right? 350 grand is such a small amount of money. I don't get it. And when I take a look at this contract and they're saying, we want 370 grand on a 30% down payment on a whatever, right? On a and then okay, here's the thing, right? That's ridiculous. I'm not giving you a 30% down payment on a 10% interest at listing price. Go throw yourself off a bridge, right? Honestly, that is ridiculous. That is borderline worse than a credit card, right? And so, And they have a 2-year prepayment penalty on it, and I know I'm not doing that, right? I mean, that is ridiculous. You are walking around in la land. And so, I don't, for 300, okay, and here's the thing. If 370 grand is such a pathetic amount of money. If you wanted me to go and get 370 grand from the bank to buy a piece of land, I could do that. 100%. I could do that. I mean, it is such a small amount of money. I don't understand. And so it's like, I personally, when I see a deal like this, it's like the money is negligible, right? The money is such a ridiculously small amount of money. I don't understand. But, for me, I was thinking about it. I was like, there is a very real, I've already said that almost 99, if you actually try and do a deal with somebody, 99% or more people will turn into a tard, right? I've already said that like 15 times. And the only reasonable man that I've really met was like an 80-year-old man who genuinely believes that he is going to pass away in the next 5 years. That, he showed up to me and he said he wanted to make a deal with me, right? And he genuinely told me, I do not believe that I'm going to live for much longer. That is what he told me. I do not believe I'm going to live for much longer. And I'm looking to set up a legacy plan for my money. I don't want to give my kids money. And he essentially, exactly what I said. If you give somebody money, there is a very realistic chance that they self-implode. They will ruin their lives with the money. They will have something good going for them. They will make some money, and then they will ruin their lives with the money. It happens all the time. It is a la land adventure to think that if you just gave somebody money that they would magically fix all of their problems. It would not. And so, I was talking to the old man, and he was the only person to this day that has just offered me a reasonable deal from the very get-go. He offered me a very reasonable deal. He said, I would like to make a deal with you, right? I don't think I'm going to live much longer. I have my life savings in my bank account, but I don't want to give my children the money. I don't want to give them the money because they're already living a decent life. My children are already living a decent life. If I give them money, there is a very realistic chance that they ruin their lives with the money. They will go and buy themselves a better house. They will go and buy themselves a better car, when in reality, the home that they have right now is just fine, and the car that they have right now is just fine as well. So I don't want to give them money. What I want to do is buy a piece of land. I want to buy a piece of land and essentially, make it so that they cannot sell the property for like the next 40 years. I don't want to give them the capacity. I don't want to let them sell the property. I want to hold on to the property beyond the grave. I'm not going to let them sell the property. And I would like you to farm it for essentially the eternity of my life, for essentially my entire life, right? There is a reason he is making the deal with me, because when he sees me and what I'm doing, he understands. This guy, he is going to farm every day for the rest of his life. You can tell. You can just tell when you look at him, you know what's going on, right? And so he said he would like to make a deal with me. I would like you to farm the property for essentially your entire life and just pay the property tax. That's it. We're not going to charge you anything. We want you to pay the $350 a year, right? If I buy a 100-acre field, property tax on a 100-acre field is like what? $350, $500 a year. We just want you to pay the $500 a year for it. And if you pay the $500 a year for it, you can farm it. I will, please farm it because we need somebody farming it, right? And you can keep all the money. The only thing that I want for my children is for them to not worry. And then when they hold on to the piece of land will go up in value over the course of their life. And I don't want them to worry about it. Very reasonable deal. But almost every single man, except for that man, every single man that I have even attempted to do business with has been a tard, a complete tard. They are, I'm going to throw some Hail Mary. I'm going to throw some Hail Mary. It's going to get caught and and then they're going to go running off in some mystical, magical fashion. And then, when it gets caught and everything turns out, on some la land journey, everything's going to work out. And then we're just going to go skipping off into the sunset, singing Kumbaya. almost everybody, every single person except for that like 80-year-old man has given me a moronic deal. I don't know how you came up with this deal, but you are a tard. No, I don't want your deal. You know, who would take that deal? The only person that would take that deal is, nobody would take that deal. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're sitting there, oh my God, I'm gonna throw some Hail Mary, and when I throw a Hail Mary, it's gonna get caught, and when it gets caught, they're gonna go running off in a mystical, magical fashion, and then we're gonna go holding hands with my buddy pow pows, skipping off into the sunset singing Kumbaya. Almost everybody, and it's not gonna work out like that. What do I always say? Lowball yourself. Always anticipate that things are gonna go worse than what you're doing. Always lowball yourself, right? If the feeder cattle market is sitting at 250, essentially 235 for the Texas cattle, then anticipate you're going to make 2. Lowball the market by 20%. Just do it right off the bat. Do not, just lowball yourself right off the bat. I always say, always do that with every deal. And if you cannot make the deal work after you've lowballed yourself, then you should not be doing the deal. Because chances are things are not going to work out in a mystical, magical fashion. They're not. And when I take a look at my business right now, over the last 30 days, I've only put $150 into my business. I've only put $150 into this. So use your common sense. Do you think I'm making money? Right? I'm making a ballistic amount of money. I don't know how much money, but I'm making a lot. I've spent $150 over the last 30 days. The tax year ends on April 15th. It's been about a month and a half, right? And over the next 3 or 4 months, I'm probably going to come home with about 15 grand. That means I'm averaging about $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Why am I looking to make $3,000 or $4,000 a month? Because I am looking to essentially negate the risk of my business. I'm essentially looking to, remove the risk from my business. I'm not going to push up my profits any higher by adding more risk. I'm essentially just looking to make just enough money to float my debt service. That is it. I'm looking to take a loan for about $500,000. And I'm looking to utilize my cash flow from my farm to float the debt service of my new property until my new property starts cash flowing. If you put me on a field, legitimately, if you put me on a field tomorrow, I will start farming that property like you have never seen before within 2 seconds of being on that property. I genuinely will, right? I will get a plan together and I will start farming immediately. And I will start making a ballistic amount of money very fast. Very fast. I mean, you put me on a field tomorrow and I will start farming it within 2 seconds. And I will start making a boatload of money. And so that's the thing for me. It's like, I just do not understand, why am I having to go through this life or death battle with this person, for a pathetic amount of money. And here's the thing. It's like, I'm just asking for them to negotiate. Right. And right now, I've offered them I offered them the seller's financing. I thought it was a conventional loan, but it's a seller's finance. And so I essentially offered them the seller's finance, a 2-year prepayment penalty, a 10% interest rate over a 20-year term with a 30% down payment. So they got to choose the terms. They got their 2-year prepayment penalty. They got their 10% interest. They got their 20-year loan. But I'm asking for a 20% discount on the property. I've already said the whole idea of making an offer is not to get a yes. The whole idea of giving an offer is to get somebody to negotiate. Get them to negotiate. And when they negotiate, you do not know the best way to negotiate a contract on any contract is either negotiate the terms or negotiate the price. Do not try and negotiate both. Chances are it's not going to work and you're going to come off as a tard. Negotiate the terms or negotiate the price. If they want a 20-year term, if they want a 20-year loan, they want a 2-year prepayment penalty, they want a 30% down payment, and they want 10% interest. That is what they want. If they want that, then give me a discount on the listing price. If you want the terms, then give me the price. If you want 370 grand, then give me the terms. maybe we can come to a middle ground. Maybe it turns into me, you know, if you want a conventional loan from me, if you don't want to sell or finance the property to me, and you want a conventional loan, you just want a regular old loan, you don't want an an FSA loan, you just want a conventional loan. If you want a conventional loan and I offered you a seller financing contract at 20% discount, maybe give me 10%. You know, if you give me 10% and a 6-month option contract, because here's the thing. If I buy whatever, right, a 350 grand, right, on a 20-year term on a conventional loan. You know, if you go to the FSA, they're going to give you a 40-year loan. They're going to give you a 40-year loan, but if you go to a conventional bank, they will give you a 20-year loan. And realistically, if I went to the bank right now and I got a 20-year loan, you know, I would farm the property, make the money on the property, and then by next year, I would change the loan over to an FSA. I would just show up at the FSA office and say, you know, I have a conventional loan on this property right now. And, you know, I made $200,000, right? I made $150,000, $200,000 on the property. And here's the money. I can show it to you. I want you to give me a loan. I want you to finance the property that I'm already on. I'm already on the property, but your loan terms are better. I just want you to give me the loan. They will give you the loan. If you've already made the money, the chances of the bank giving you the money is very good. Like if you show up at the bank right now and you say, you know, I bought this property, but I got a bad loan on it. And, I'm making $150,000 a year on it. I'm making $150,000 a year, and I pay 40 grand a year on it. And so I'm coming out of maybe $110,000. I have an extra $110,000 a year. Here's the money. I show it to you, and then you say, you know, I want you to switch. I want you to give me a loan so that I can change my loan over to your loan. Because if I change my loan over to your loan, you know, I go from owing $40,000 a year on the property to owing $20,000. I go from owing $40,000 a year to owing $15,000, right? But I need to pay you over a period of 40 years when I'm paying them over a period of 20 years. If you do that, the banker will give you the money. They said, okay, the bank already gave him the money. He's already making money on it. He just wants to change the loan over to my loan, because if he changes the loan over to my loan, he's going to be paying less every month. Makes sense, right? Very reasonable deal, right? And then, very reasonable deal. And so right now, you know, it's like, you know, so the big thing about me is that, you know, I don't understand why am I having to go through this life or death battle over a pathetic amount of money. I do not understand. But chances are, you know, it's like if I'm okay, so here's the thing. It's like, you know, every single person except for the old man that I've come into contact with for doing business to this day has been a tard. Every single one of them. They've come up with some ridiculous thing. And they're sitting there, and skipping around and doing circles in La La Land, right? Default moron. Every single person except for that old man has been a tard. To this day, every single last one of them. It does not matter what the business was about. It could have been about renting a field. It could have been about, animal feed. It could have been about hay. It could have been about cattle. It could have been about land. Every single person to this day, except for the old man, has been a tard. They've given me some nonsensical, moronic deal, and they're hoping that they lob some Hail Mary. They're gonna throw a Hail Mary. It's gonna get caught, and then they're gonna live in some mystical, magical, skipping off into La La Land type fashion. Almost everybody, right? And so, you know, it's like me. You know, the whole thing about me is that I can go to I've already said like 50 times, if you want to figure out how much money the bank will give you, the way you figure it out is you go and you talk to the bank. Every bank has different lending standards. Every single bank. So you call the bank and you ask the banker, I'm looking to buy a house. Will you give me an estimate for how much I qualify for on a mortgage? That's it. I'm looking to buy a piece of land. Will you let me know how much I qualify for on a land loan? That's it. That's all you have to do. There are legitimately banks out there that will lend you 80% of your income. Some banks will lend you 80% of your income. You know, if they're offering you a 20-year loan at 7.5% interest for $500,000, that's going to be like what, $3,000 a month, right? That's going to be like what, $3,500 a month. If you make $4,500 a month, they will lend you the $500,000. Some banks will. I've talked to a banker that specifically told me that they will lend me 80% of my income. If they will legitimately lend me 80% of my income. Some banks will. depending on what, always call the banker and ask them. If you're looking to take an FHA loan or whatever they call it, you're trying to take a loan from the government to buy a home, you're looking to do that 3.5% down payment, whatever it may be, the amount of money that you can borrow is going to be a lot less than if you go to a conventional bank. Most of the time, the paperwork and everything that you have to do to borrow money from the FHA, what do they call the FHA, the federal housing, I think is what they call it. If you want to do that 3.5% loan, you're going to need to make like 3.5 to 5 times more money than the loan. If you want to take a loan, if you want to take that loan, and you're going to have to make like 3.5 to 5 times more money than the loan. But if you go to a conventional banker, there are conventional bankers out there that will lend you 80% of your money. If you make $4,000 a month, they will legitimately lend you like 400 grand. They will. I mean, if they take a look at, they'll tell you what's going on with their numbers. They'll say, if you have good credit, we will lend you on a 20-year term. We will give you a 20-year term at 7.5% interest. That is the loan that we will give you. And so you just go on a mortgage calculator and you type it up, 500, and they will also tell you how much they will lend you. We will lend you 80% of your income. So you go on Google and you just type in mortgage calculator. You type in however, let's say you make let's say like you're in a family, right? And whatever, right? And you make let's say as a family, you make $60,000 a year. That's $5,000 a month, right? So you go on a mortgage calculator and you just type in numbers until you get to about 4,000. And for $4,000 a month, you can borrow like $500,000. Legitimately, you can to buy, and the banker will give it to you. Granted that you should probably not do that. If you make $5,000 a month and you buy a $500,000 home for $4,000 a month, you're going to be what's called house poor. You're going to be house poor. All of the money you make is going to have to go into paying for your house. But depending on what banker you talk to, every banker will have different lending standards. And so, that's the thing about me. It's like, 350 grand is such a pathetic amount of money. I do not understand. If you genuinely want me to just go and get a conventional loan, the average weight of my animals right now is at about 500 pounds. When I sell my animals and I lowball myself, I'm going to make about 15 grand. I just do not understand. Why am I having to have this life or death battle over such a pathetic amount of money? 350 is, and we're talking about $350,000 worth of real estate, right? We're not talking about $350,000 worth of cash. We're talking about $350,000 worth of real estate. $350,000 worth of real estate is such a small amount of money. I do not get it. Why am I having to go through this life or death battle with you? I've already shown you what I'm doing. I've already shown you that I run cattle. I run a boatload of cattle. I'm very good at it. I grow my own grass. I'm very good at it. I make a boatload of money. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why are you giving me this life or death struggle over some minuscule amount of money? It's like $2,500 a month. I don't understand. I've already told you that I want to buy your property. I don't get it. Give me a reasonable deal and we'll just shake hands and walk away, right? If you okay, so here's the thing about me. It's like if they want to, just tell me what you want, right? Do you want me to go and get a conventional loan? Because if you want me to go and get a conventional loan, just give me a 6-month option contract and give me 10% off the listing price and we'll shake hands right now. Because if you give me a 6-month option contract and a 10% discount on the listing price, the average weight of my herd will be over, I can sell all of my animals within the next 6 months, within the next 5 months, right? Because if I go and I appreciate the value of all my animals, I make all the money that I need to make on my animals, and then I clear up my debt, it will take about 1 month for the credit bureau to pick that up and then to raise my credit score, right? It will take about a month for the credit bureau to say, okay, this guy just paid off all of his debt. And so now, he paid off all of his debt. And so, his credit score needs to go up. It's going to take about a month. So if you just give me, if you tell me you want a conventional loan, just tell me what you want. That, I'm just trying to negotiate, right? I'm not going to give you listing price. That's ridiculous. You're asking for listing price on a seller's finance contract with a 30% down payment, a 2-year prepayment penalty, and a 10% interest rate. That is ridiculous. I'm not going to give you that. If you want me to go and get a conventional loan, just tell me. I will go and get a conventional loan. Just give me a 6-month option contract and give me 10% off the listing price. Very reasonable deal, right? A very reasonable deal. If that is genuinely what you want, just tell me. I'll go and do it. Because, if you give me a 6-month option contract, I'll just go and sell all my animals. Within 4 months, I will sell all my animals. I will make my money on them. I will, my credit score will go up like over 780. And then, but either way, $370,000, $350,000 is such a pathetic amount of money. I do not get it. Just tell me what you want. If you were a reasonable person, $350,000 of real estate is such a small amount of money. I do not understand. I don't get it. Like, why are we having this life or death battle? Just tell me what you want, and I will go and get it for you. I don't care. 350 grand of real estate is such a small amount of money. I do not get it. Please, for the love of God, just tell me what you want. Right? You would not have posted, somebody would not have posted their property up for sale if they did not want to sell it, right? Just tell me what you want. $350,000 worth of real estate is such a small amount of money. I do not want to have this life or death battle. I do not want, just tell me what you want and I'll go and make it happen. If you want a conventional loan, give me a 6-month option contract and give me a 10% discount on the listing price. That's it. If you give me that, I will go and I will get the loan for you and I will get it all figured out. This 350 grand is a pathetic amount of money. If if you genuinely if you showed up to me and you said I can't buy $350,000 worth of real estate, I would think you are a tard. I don't know what's wrong with you, but keep your poorness away from me. Maybe you should keep that poorness to yourself. It's such a small amount of money. I do not get it. And so, I'm having this life or death battle with this person right now over such a minuscule amount of money. I do not understand. Just tell me what you want. I've already shown you that I have a massive amount of money, right? I can make as much money as I want. Right? Just tell me what you want. Right? Just sell me your property. We'll shake hands right now and then we'll walk our separate ways. Nobody's got to worry about anything. No more of this life or death battle over such a minuscule amount of money. Right? It's just such a small amount of money. I don't get it. Like, if they just tell me no, I'll just walk away and I'll go and buy myself, a field that is twice as large for twice as much. I don't care. Or I'll go and buy a deal that, that's been on the market for over 200 days and they haven't been able to sell it. I'll go and find something else, right? I don't want to be in this life or death struggle over some pathetic amount of money. And so I got one last offer sent to them. If they just tell me no, if they do not counter offer, if they do not start negotiating with me, if they just flat out tell me no again, I'm going to go and do a deal on a different property because I'm done having this life or death battle. It's such a minuscule amount of money, if they ask me to go and sell all my cattle right now so that I can raise my credit score and then get a conventional loan just so that I can have not even get a conventional loan but get pre-approved for a conventional loan. It's like, when my agent tells me, when my agent looks me straight in the face and tells me, maybe we should wait until next month because after you sold all your cattle, your credit score is going to go up and you can get a pre-approval letter. That pre-approval letter is such a worthless piece of paper. If we were talking about $35 million, that would be different. But we're talking about a minuscule amount of money, like a piece of paper that says that, what a pathetic amount of money. 350 grand is such a small amount of money. I don't need a piece of paper saying that I qualify for 350 grand. Just take a look at what I'm doing and just imagine my balance sheet. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe even, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up into my assets. 350 grand is such a small amount of money. I do not get it. I don't understand. Why are you asking me to go and get some worthless piece of paper for a worthless amount of money? If we were talking about a large amount of money, sure, I would go and get the pre-approval letter. But we're talking about 350 grand. It's such a minuscule amount of money. No, I'm not going to liquidate my assets to go and get that pathetic piece of paper. Just imagine my balance sheet. Take a look at what I'm doing and then just visualize my balance sheet, right? My tractor's worth 100 grand. My land is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. My cattle are worth almost 100 grand. I don't get it. Why do you not understand? $350,000 worth of real estate is less than $3 grand a month. I don't understand. It is such a pathetic amount of money. I do not understand. Like, I just don't, you know, I don't understand. I don't want to understand. Keep your poorness away from me. And so I'm going to look to do one last deal with these people. If they do not start negotiating with me, I'm just going to leave them to die and go somewhere else. You know, I'm not here to save people. I put in my third offer. If they do not start negotiating with me, I'm just going to leave them to die. You know, I'm not here to save people. You know, 350 grand is a worthless amount of money. I don't care. I genuinely don't. If you know, I will go and find a different deal somewhere else. You know, keep your worthless 350 grand and keep your poorness to yourself. I do not care. But, you know, I've always said this, but if you want to figure out how much the bank is going to lend you, you call the banker and you ask them. Every bank has different lending standards. Some banks will lend you 20 on a 20-year term. Some banks will lend you on a 30-year term. Some banks will lend you on a 40-year term. Some banks will give you 7.5% interest. Some banks will give you 4.5% interest. Some banks will leverage you 80% of your money. Some banks will leverage you 30% of your money. Call the bank and ask. You always just call the banker and ask them. They will tell you, you do not need to figure out anything for yourself. You just call them and ask them, hey banker, I'm looking to buy a piece of land. I need a land loan. You call the bank and ask them, hey banker, I'm looking to buy a home. I'm looking for a home loan. You just call them and ask. They will tell you. And that's it. And I've already said, the most realistic opportunity for most people to get rich is you should not be trying to start a business. Most people should not be trying to start a business. Most people should not be trying to make, big deals. Most of you are going to turn into a tard. Every single person that I've talked to about business, except for a very old man, was a tard. Every single person other than the old man was a tard. Legitimately, every single person that I've talked to business about, and was a tard. They've come up with some ridiculous plan. They're going on some, la land adventure. And it's just some ridiculous thing. But in reality, if you just, most people, almost everybody, if you just woke up tomorrow and you said, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm just going to go and get a better job. I'm going to get a job that pays more money. I'm going to take the extra money and the money that I'm spending right now, and I'm going to ask the bank how much will they give me for on a mortgage. And you buy yourself a decent home. You buy yourself a middle class home. And then you started a Roth IRA and just bought the S&P 500, and that's all you did for the eternity of your life. You would be rich effectively tomorrow. You would not need to throw some Hail Mary. You don't need $10 million. You don't need $10 million. You don't need 100 grand. You don't even need 10 grand. You could effectively be rich tomorrow. If you just woke up tomorrow and came up with some reasonable plan, like, oh, I'm gonna go and get myself. I'm gonna get myself a better job. I'm going to get a job that pays me more money. I'm going to go and look for a job that pays me more money. I'm going to take the extra money. I'm going to start a Roth IRA. And in the Roth IRA, I'm just going to buy the S&P 500 and just put that in my Roth IRA. And I'm going to do that for the limit every single year. And then I'm just going to buy myself a middle-class home. And I'm not going to, don't go and buy yourself a freaking BMW. Don't go and buy yourself a super nice car. Don't go and get yourself a $2,000 apartment, right? Don't ruin your life. A lot of people, even if you get out of being poor, if you are poor right now, there is a reason you are poor. And the reason you are poor is probably going to be, if you are poor today, the reason you are poor today is also going to be the reason you are poor tomorrow. And forever and for infinity and beyond, you have been poor for too long. Because here's the thing, if you knew how to be rich, you would choose to be rich. Almost everybody would. Almost nobody would choose to be poor. Right? I mean, nobody. Almost nobody. Like 99.999% of the human population would not choose to be poor. If you could be rich, you would choose to be rich. And so, it does not take very much to be rich. It just takes a very, very, a few minor adjustments. If you woke up tomorrow and you said, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm just going to find a job that pays more money. That's it. You're going to take the money and you're going to tell the banker how much you make. And you're going to ask them how much will they lend you for a house. They will give you a number, and then you go and you even if you really wanted to, you can ask them, how do I increase my lending amount? How do I increase that amount? And they'll tell you, oh well, maybe if you made a little bit more money, or if you increased your credit score a little bit, or whatever it may be. If you came up with a better down payment, whatever it may be, they will tell you. And then you go, I can borrow about 400 grand. I can borrow about 400 grand for about $2,500 a month. And for 400 grand, I can buy myself a middle-class home. You know, $2,500, $3,000 a month, you can go and buy, you can buy a $400,000 home, middle-class home. You live in your middle-class house. You drive a decent car. You don't go and buy yourself you don't self-sabotage yourself. You just stay the course. You get yourself a middle-class home, buy the S&P 500, put it into a Roth IRA, and then just don't self-sabotage yourself. You can essentially be rich tomorrow. Almost anybody can. I mean, it's not hard to be rich, right? It's not difficult. It's not some like Hail Mary plan. It's like, oh my God, if I lob this Hail Mary, it's going to get caught in some mystical, magical fashion because I fell out of heaven a 7 and my life is a mystical, magical journey. If you start thinking like that, you are thinking like that because you are a tard. I'm telling you that is not good, right? You are poor for a reason. And if you are poor, keep your poorness to yourself, because the last thing you want to do as a poor person is turn other people poor, right? It's not hard to make money. It's not hard. It's very simple. You know, but the moment you start going, oh my God, I fell out of heaven a 7, my life is a mystical, magical journey, I'm going to throw some Hail Mary, and when I throw some Hail Mary, it's going to get caught, and we're going to go walking off into the sunset on some mystical, magical journey, holding hands, singing Kumbaya, then you're screwed. You're screwed forever. You're legitimately, I mean, you are poor, and you are going to be poor forever. Keep your poorness away from me. I'm serious. You don't want to be poor, right? I mean, and it does not take a massive amount of money to be rich. If you, your wife, and your child combined make about $80,000 a year, that is what it takes to be middle class. When you go into a middle class neighborhood, they got $500,000 homes. Majority of those people are making somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 a year as a family. Not as an individual, as a family. If the husband brings home 50, the wife brings home 40, and the child brings home 10, then the family is making 100 grand a year, and that is the average middle class family in America. If you find a job that pays you $4,000 a month, your wife finds her a job that pays $3,000 a month, and one of your kids goes and works a part-time job and makes $10,000 a year, you are essentially making $100,000 a year as a family, and that is the middle class America. You can go and buy yourself a middle class home. You can buy yourself a decent car. You can just, don't self-sabotage yourself, right? I mean, just do not ruin it for yourself, and that is middle class in America. That is, almost everybody, if you go into a middle class neighborhood, that is what they are doing. Almost everybody. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.